and harmful. That's what some say about a statewide investigation by Wisconsin's Department of Justice. Good evening, I'm John Stofflet.
And I'm Maria Lizignoli. More than a year and a half after its creation, Attorney General Josh Kaul defends his plan to look into clergy abuse. He says progress is being made to hold religious leaders accountable.
NBC 15 Investigates Elizabeth Wattis joins us now. Elizabeth, Kaul pleaded with survivors, asking them to report their stories of abuse to his office.
And some of those survivors tell me after reporting more than a year ago, they have no idea what, if anything, is actually being looked into.
It's confidential, it's safe.
April 2021, standing on the Capitol steps.
Your story matters.
Survivors of abuse put their faith in Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul. Faith, his initiative, would hold clergy and religious leaders accountable by law for past and present abuse. That is, if survivors came forward with their stories.
I know how difficult it's going to be for many of you to come forward again.
Peter Isley is the head of Nate's Mission, a group working to get justice for clergy abuse survivors.
I want you to know this time is different.
A year and a half since its launch, 204 survivors have come forward with 2 prosecutions. That's less than 1%.
It's got to be so much higher.
Isley says that's not only unacceptable.
Stand up for us. Stand up for children. Stand up for justice.
It's re-traumatizing to victims.
It's really harmful to, be asked to tell your story and then not really hear back.
Patrick Noth took the call from the AG to heart. Noth reported his childhood story of abuse by a Dane County priest to the DOJ.
The reporting experience was actually quite good.
After the initial report was taken, Noth waited months. He exchanged emails with the DOJ victim service specialist, asking about where his case stood. Eventually, with no answers provided, Patrick received this email. The DOJ employee typing, "Maybe investigating is too strong of a word. The initiative does not have the resources to thoroughly go after the church or investigate all allegations. The reality is money."
Was this initiative, when it first came out, was there separate funds set aside to support it?
There are no specific funds. We've been using existing DOJ resources. Like I said, the multidisciplinary teams, for example, consist of people who work at DOJ, prosecutors, investigators, and victim advocates.
I've asked Josh Kaul's office how many of his employees he has working on the clergy abuse initiative and how much time is spent doing so. Well, it's been almost a month now, and I still don't have any answers. Kaul defends his department's work on the initiative, saying it's not only about prosecutions, it's also about connecting survivors to resources outside the church to heal. Another sign of progress, according to Kaul, all 5 Wisconsin Catholic dioceses now have disclosure lists published with the names of clergy who, according to the church, are credibly accused of abuse. The Diocese of Green Bay with the most abusers listed. Next, the Milwaukee Archdiocese, La Crosse with 25, then Superior, and the Madison Diocese with the fewest.
These lists are not accurate. They, appear to not be accurate based on this information that has come from church whistleblowers themselves.
Sarah Pearson works with Peter Isley at Nate's Mission. The two say they have hand-delivered evidence to the AG's office that lists hundreds of additional clergy abusers. They say that evidence wasn't investigated properly.
They got them. Then to find out, they told us some of those documents, important documents, that were given by whistleblowers to us to give to the Attorney General, they gave to church lawyers. Because the church lawyer said, we want those back.
NBC 15 Investigates has asked the AG's office about that claim. Our question has gone unanswered for nearly 2 weeks. Kaul says cooperation with Catholic dioceses in the state have varied. The Milwaukee Archdiocese announcing publicly they would not turn over documents to the DOJ. Madison Diocese leaders saying they would cooperate with new allegations of abuse.
Having the church say we're not participating in the investigation, the Catholic Church saying we're not participating in the investigation, and then having the Department of Justice do nothing about that. I don't know what other institution gets that privilege. What other institution can you think of that says we're not participating in this statewide investigation, and then law enforcement does nothing about it?
I've talked to a few survivors who are talking about audits. Is that an option?
So we, in the context of the review that we're conducting, if we had information that provided us a basis to subpoena documents, that's something that we would consider and assess whether that's the appropriate step for the case. But that depends on the facts and the information that we receive.
More than a year and a half in, faith in the investigation is fleeting. Has the DOJ failed you?
100% they failed. They failed every survivor that's reported, and they've failed every survivor that is terrified to report.
Though that same faith isn't completely lost.
We want them to go and take the evidence that's available to them and use it.
This process is still ongoing. We are still reviewing cases and making assessments with our multidisciplinary teams. Also, if people have information they haven't reported yet, we want to encourage them to reach out and report.
AG Kaul tells me he plans to release a report of his findings once the statewide review is complete. He wasn't so specific on when that would happen. In the studio tonight, Elizabeth Wattis, NBC 15 Investigates.
If you are a victim of clergy abuse, you can report it through the DOJ's online reporting tool at supportsurvivors.widoj.gov or call its tip line at 1-877-222-2620. And Nate's Mission has resources for survivors as well on their website. Find those at natesmission.org.